This is a tutorial on the software program Prisma. I'm calling it the art of filtering. It is utilizing some common filtering programs. Prisma is a great one. For Prisma to take a look at a photograph and then give versions. Now you can see the bar down at the bottom, those are different filters that their programmers have made, and you can cycle through and pick any one of them. Now what will happen is that it will attack and change the entire photograph. You may only want a part of the photograph, but you have to accept all of it. So when I find a filter that I like, I hit the save button up in the top right and I save everything, and my intention is later on to put it in a layer and perhaps erase most of the filter and just get the effect that I want on a certain area, maybe the hair or maybe the dress or maybe the background. I'll erase everything else and just keep that, but initially I have to accept the entire layer. So what I'm doing here is collecting the various filters that I think will make a nice final product. The final product, and you can see the filters there, this is a program called Sketchbook. And the final product goes in as a layer in Sketchbook. And you can see on the far right there, I'm gathering layers of these filters. Now, they're all exactly the same size, except for some of the personal and special portrait ones. These last three are of a different size, but I really like the effect. So now I work just with those three, and I blend them. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm blending the entire smaller version, and I'm using the tool for layering to blend them down in a certain way. I'm using darken. So I'm looking at the impact and I'm using darken to then merge them down. Sometimes I'll use some of the other features, and I will show that a little bit later, but generally that's darken. Now once I've finished this, I want to get it the right size, so I found that it's easy to make it semi-transparent and then use the size control in the program to grab it and then reduce it down and match it up to the original that's below it. Now this can be a little tricky because you want to look at, you can't really do it backed out. You have to zoom in. You can do it initially, but then you need to zoom in and watch the lines and then again adjust the size so that the lines snap to and you don't get a blur. And you'll see that, something in the eyes didn't work, but now that looks good. So I got a good crisp edge around the neck and the chin, and the eyes are also crisp. So now I take that and I bring it back full. And before I merge it down though, I want to get rid of the stuff that I don't need. See, that's a big square there. So I'll get the erase tool and I'll erase with a nice fuzzy edge. I'll erase right up to the edge, and I don't have to be that careful. All I want to do is definitely get the areas that I don't want, and if I can't quite tell where the fuzzy edge ends, it's not that critical. Some cases it is, and there's a finer eraser you can pick, but in this way it's just kind of a quick and dirty large erase for a bulk area. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm ready to merge that down to the other full layers. So I have the special effects of that portrait stuff, and now I can merge it down. I'm using darken again, and I've changed that top layer with merge that has that filter with it, and that looks pretty good. Now I want to see what that looks like with darken to the next one down. And it might be okay, I'm not sure. Blue. So then I'll go down through and look at some of the others, like multiple, or go down and look at screen. I'll go and make my picks, and I don't have to merge all of it down. I could eliminate some things, but I'm kind of looking at an overall massive change. Don't be afraid to make it dark, because you can always lighten it with other ones, so that if you, I multiplied it many times and it looks, oh, that's awful dark, but it's on the way to being better. So merging that one down, that was I don't want blue, but initially it's okay to accept that because I'm going to merge it down. Now I'm looking at this this last final, see, I'm getting a blue with a yellow, I'm getting a green. I like the green, so I'm looking at different ways to merge down that gives me a little, well, that's a nice one. I kind of like that. So I back up again. I'm going forward and backward. I finally settle on something, and sometimes I'll settle on it and I'll even back the transparency back. But this is pretty good. Now, doing that kind of filtering sometimes eliminates detail, in which case, you know, you used to have a little bit of eyelashes and now they're gone. So I'll create a new layer and I'll pick a nice eyelash color with the picker, and I'll get a fine pinpoint of maybe a 1 point line, and I'll zoom in there and I'll actually create on this layer on top of the artwork a lash line. And I'll extend the mascara down the lid and I'll make that whole area a bit darker. I'll do one eye and then I'll do the other. And this can be done for hair. It can be done for any fine detail that is missing and you want to put it back. You can do it in any color, and you can use any kind of brush that you want. And sometimes it's intensive and takes hours. Sometimes it's just a quick touch-up. So once you do this and you're satisfied, you've picked the right color, you can then merge that layer down. And I caution you to do this for every color and area. Make a separate layer, do what you need to, and then merge that down. If you want another area to use a different color, fine, create a new layer. So now I'm looking at that cheek of hers. She has no highlight on that cheek, so I'm wondering about that. But also, some of the filter has made some detail in her skin tone that I don't like. So I like to use this smudge tool. It's a very small tool, and if you take a look at the forehead there, I can smudge dark into light, or I can smudge light back into dark, and I can make that edge right above her eyebrow there. I can make that edge very subtle. So working it back and forth, I can actually get a better transition from light to dark. So I can eliminate, well, technically you can eliminate little freckles, little moles, or perhaps a crease here or there, an errant hair. But usually it's a filter aberration. Because you filtered, it's collected pixels in areas that they weren't meant to be. Now the highlight on our cheek is kind of stark, but that's a painterly effect, but I might want to change it so it's not quite that painterly. So what I did was I created a new layer over there and I put white on it. And so now it looks like a blob of white, but now I can smudge that and then I can reduce the opacity until it blends. So it's a neat little trick. You can smudge more and then reduce the opacity, so long as it's a layer by itself. When you get to the level that you want, merge it down. Now it's still within the painterly effect. It's not photographic, it's a painterly effect. And you can continue with this and build color upon color upon color for literally layers and layers and layers. There's no limit to the layers you can create. So this looks pretty good. I'm about ready to send this out. So this is in Sketchbook, and now I need to save it as artwork. Oh, there was this little dark spot on her shoulder, so I thought, I'll smudge that. And so now I don't need to make a new layer. I'm not going to put a lighter color. I can always smudge dark into light. I can't create white if there is no white there. So, but I can smudge that dark into the lighter part of the skin so that, you know, that's fine. And the rest of the skin does have a texture, but I'm going to keep that because of the painterly effect. I just didn't want that darkish freckle. So now I'm about ready to be finished. This is where you can actually put text in there. The program allows that, so you could put the name and you could creation date in that, or a title. So now I just sent it out as a file, and once I'm in the file, I need to export it out as artwork to my general photograph collection. And if I go there, I can see I have all the sources that I had to build it. So I eliminate those sources now, and I only keep the last one, and I make my crops, and I have my final piece of artwork. That's pretty good resolution. It's not intense, but it's pretty good resolution, and the image looks pretty snappy. And so that's it. That's my final.